do you feel lonely? If the answer is yes, then you're actually not the only one. Isn't it strange that you can feel alone and yet it's something that connects us? I've made some bad decisions, but that doesn't mean you have to make them as well.
Hello there, my name is Maeve. I'm 20 years old and I live in solitude for about a decade now. Short disclaimer ahead, I am not a psychiatrist or any kind of doctor. Everything I say and share is from my own first-hand experience. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, when I say isolation, what do I actually mean by it? Because obviously I'm not a hermit. I do have my own apartment, I have my own job, and technically even the option to go out. But even if the world is right outside your window, you can feel locked up, lonely and lost. In my case, I don't have any friends, family or any contacts for that matter in the virtual or the real world. And you might ask now, why do this then? Why expose myself like that? And to tell you the truth, it is very uncomfortable. Not only am I not used to talk to a cam, which hopefully gets better in the next future, because this is supposed to be only a
in the beginning. Yeah.
But also showing vulnerability like this in public, and especially as a male, is definitely a challenge I had to overcome. But still, there are a few. First of all, raising awareness. Mental health is still something that is hard to talk about, especially if you're one of the affected, which is quite the opposite of what it should be. If you have a problem, if you get stuck and don't feel right, it should be way more openly communicated instead of isolating us. Because from time to time we all need help. And maybe you are in a similar situation. Maybe you are still young and look for some advice. I just want to be that person I myself needed like 10 to 15 years ago, that tells me how bad things actually can get to lead me in the right direction. I mean, to be honest, there probably were a few, but I just didn't listen. Although I really should have. Maybe I can spark the inspiration in you, or at least give you some motivation. Talking about isolation, we also have to talk about depression, because sooner or later they both go hand in hand. But what is depression anyway? Well, let me paint you a picture.
Hello.
Imagine your mental health like a garden. The good feelings are the flowers you want to thrive. The bad feelings is the weed that grows in between. You can get rid of one, but that's processed and very artificial. Usually you want and can keep a healthy balance between the two. Because that is life. The bad moments teach us lessons, and the good ones help us to cope with it and are the ones actually worth living for. Depression, however, is something rather sneaky. Oftentimes it's not even your fault, but it affects you all the same. Like a rotting animal carcass somewhere upstream, poisoning the water and contaminating the very soil. Everything slowly withers away, and you ask yourself, what is happening? Did I do something wrong? Is it actually my fault? Am I the problem? And oftentimes the answer is no. But even if it starts insignificant, until you remove the source, nothing really grows again. And then we turn in circles. We take a vacation, we buy some new clothes, anything really that gives us this quick feeling of satisfaction. But when we go back to the environment we came from, nothing really has changed, and we ask ourselves why this gripping feeling in our chest won't go away. Now let's go over the worst parts of isolation, especially in such long term. Short anecdote at this point, I recently heard about a guy named Michael Cifra. I hope I pronounced it correctly. I just put it over here so you can read it. The TLDR to his experiment is he lived underground for over 60 days in total isolation. And as I heard it, it was weirdly familiar, because it is not the place that makes you lonely, but the absence of purpose. If you have no places to be, no one to be with, and no goals ahead, time itself loses meaning. That in turn can lead to sleep deprivation or lethargy, lethargy, which both are quite unhealthy. Now maybe you don't eat enough, maybe you eat too much or just unhealthy. On top of that comes reduced physical exercise, which leads to muscle loss, which leads to weakness, shivering, fatigue. Everything gets worse and worse, and depending on how long this is your standard, it will be harder and harder to go back because your body gets used to it. Then there is the literal decrease in brain power, if you want to call it that. It is incredibly hard for me to focus on a task. My memory has become very unstable. Words slip my mind, and even holding a basic conversation is a struggle, no matter the language. And it might not exactly seem like this right now, but this is with a script and multiple takes. I cut out every second sentence because I stumble over my own words and I want to keep it somewhat entertaining. And at some point, maybe even basic hygiene starts to slip. Now I want to say that I myself always try to be at least presentable when I go outside, because I still care about what others think of me and I want to keep this much dignity. However, here we already have the next problem, because hiding the truth about yourself makes others oblivious about the state you're in, and with that unable to help. Often the cause of all of it, but either way it just makes things worse. Even if you're not actively thinking about it, having it constantly in the back of your mind that you might not be able to pay the basics like food, rent or clothing, it is very toxic. First only for your mental health, but sooner or later it will affect you physically as well. There comes one bill you don't want to pay or cannot pay at the moment, and you throw it away and it's out of your mind. Until it comes back, and another, and before you know it, you have so much debt that it feels like you have to work for years just to get back to a neutral state. The potential of financial issues to snowball out of control should not be underestimated. Kind of self-explanatory, but isolation means that you have no meaningful interaction with anyone else. And if you think now, well, that actually sounds really good, I like some time for myself, I'm not talking about introversity. I mean, we all remember the time in lockdown. That wasn't really fun because it was forced on us and we couldn't just choose to end it. And it hits especially hard on holidays like Christmas, for example. Everyone else talks to you assuming you have the same good time, but instead you go back to your cold and empty home, having a day like any other. Okay, listen up now, because this is probably the most important part about this whole video. Being unable to connect with someone on a deeper personal level for such an extended time period, it breaks something in you. Something that is very hard, if not impossible, to fix. I cannot describe it any other way as torture. If you believe me anything, you do not want that. Now, suicide is a very sensitive subject. Few people actually talk freely about it in the fear of saying something wrong. I also try to be very careful talking about it, and I don't want to go too deep into the matter. Well, getting the obvious out of the way, yes, I thought about it. I did not do it. I do not plan on doing it. And I would urge anyone else to also not do it. I had a stomachache more times than I can count. But even when I hated everything, something always held me back. And it was hope. However, I actually think it is a misunderstood feeling, because it doesn't tell you to wait for some happy accident that is coming your way, but rather it is the motivation to change something in your life that is not how you want it. But why don't you do anything about it? Why don't you go out there and stop being miserable?
If you're homeless, just buy a house. Duh.
All of these things combined tear on your self-confidence. Moreover, it has become increasingly easy to escape yourself into a virtual world where you literally get achievements for doing nothing instead of living in the real one where you have bills to pay. And after a while, you stop being upset. There is no anger, there is no sadness left, just nothing. Everything around you turns into a grey soup, and every low is a new baseline. And that kills your motivation to even get up and start your day. But disconnecting like that also gives you nothing to talk about, which makes it even more complicated to get into a conversation again. And even if you try to climb out, you clean yourself up, you do some exercise, you eat healthy. It might work for a while, but as long as there's something left, it is very easy to fall back. And you might think, no, that won't be me, I can turn it around. I'm so young, I just chill for a few years, maybe play some games, do something for my own. And on one hand, this is actually healthy. Figuring out what you want is an important part of building your own character. However, you need to find the right balance. Time for yourself is always nice to have, but the connections to others should always be somewhat of a priority. At least as long as you enjoy it. Alright, so much for the hard facts. And I know all of this seems very hopeless. Truth be told, in this economy, in this time, there are a lot of things that go wrong. However, that still doesn't mean that we cannot live the life we want for ourselves. And I want this to be somewhat educational. So what would I tell my younger self or anyone going down the same road? Well, believe it or not, in all of this mess is still something positive after all. First of all, follow your passion, even if you fail. I know it is incredibly scary to go off-road, to do something not normal, not conventional, but you will perform better in something that you actually like doing instead of something that is just effective or someone else wants you to do it. There's this question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I think it's a bit short-sighted. For most of us, there's not that much change in 5 years. Instead, maybe ask yourself, 50 years from now, when I look back at right this moment, can I be proud of myself? Or will I say I just wasted my best years? I asked myself this exact question and I didn't like the answer at all. So it led me here. It is often portrayed that you have to work hard first, and at some point, maybe in the future, you reach the promised golden years. But of course nobody wants to work under such conditions. We hide away in our younger years, idling away the hours, hoping that we get old, because then everything will be better, right?
It is all a lie.
Life seems so long when you are young, but the length isn't actually the important part. But that every moment is unique. The time that is lost and you won't get it back. I'm not saying risk it all, but from time to time maybe take a chance. And yes, maybe when you're old, you look back at this moment and say, that was so stupid, why did I do that?
Why?
Or maybe you say, hey, that was the best time of my life. Either way, it shapes you. It is part of your own unique story. Do not miss it. You don't owe anyone anything just for existing. Family means nothing if it doesn't support you. Now, this might seem a bit counterintuitive to what I said earlier, but in my opinion, it's still better to cut unhealthy relationships instead of being with someone who weights you down even further. Because there are literally billions of humans. Just as a quick comparison, 100 years has, give or take, 3 billion seconds. And on this earth right now, live over 8 billion humans. You can do the math yourself. Find the ones that are there for you and then don't let them go. Or if humans are indeed not your style, maybe consider an animal companion. I mean, I don't think I have to tell anyone how big of an impact such a bond can have between us and an animal of another species. However, if you do decide to get one, please take good care of them. They are, after all, more innocent than any of us. Now, here's a tip if you are on the other side and want to help someone. Be genuine about it. Just throwing someone into the hospital and then turning your back makes everything worse.
I'm busy, you're weird, goodbye.
And you don't even need an instant solution. Oftentimes, just having an open ear is enough to break the outer shell. Being alone definitely made me rethink empathy as a whole, or ask questions in general. Because we accept so many things and think, well, this is normal, everyone's doing it, or I cannot do anything about it anyway. But that's not entirely true. You have way more agency than you think about your own life, and as part of a collective for bigger decisions. That is also why I became vegan. It is one of the few choices that actually felt right and still do, because for once I was acting out of care and not out of habit. Overall, I learned to appreciate the little things way more again. That doesn't mean you have to go around and hug trees, but a little respect goes a long way. And also not following the system of consumer ignorance, or at least taking a break from time to time, will do you good. I promise. At the end, I want to share 2 quick situations that happened to me recently that made me think. While I was on my way home from work, I saw an older gentleman crying in the tram. Like always, everyone else just sat there in silence, staring out the window. And I'm not proud of it, but I did the same. And you might think now, well, what does this have to do with me? Why is this my problem? But turn it around. Imagine you are in this situation. Wouldn't it be nice to have someone come up to you asking just a simple question? Hey, what is wrong? Can I help you with something? I mean, it costs you nothing and you don't have to commit to anything. And another example, I saw a young mother struggling with a stroller at a staircase. I did ask her if she needs help, however it came out so clumsy that it was just another awkward situation for me. And maybe this is just in my head, but let me tell you, you are not the bad guy for offering help. It might feel like this, but that's an error in our societal system. You are a good person for at least trying to make the world a better place. Isolation concerns all of us. Especially in a time where social media floods us with this image of fake perfection, AI and virtual reality becoming more and more real. We have to look out for each other, lest we get lost very quickly. We pretend we have hundreds, thousands of friends, but when the screens turn off, there's nobody waiting. And the irony of this is that it's actually easier to be yourself than putting on any disguise. But we care too much about external validation. Speaking of, if you like what you see, like what you see. That would really help me out. But now it's your turn. Do you feel the same way? Do you take anything useful out of all of this? Leave a comment below. Be friendly, and that's all I got. I think I just awkwardly cut the video.